Welcome back to the nationally syndicated Price of Business show. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I always enjoy having on the program Chris Rodgers, my guest this segment. He is my go-to man for all things SEO. Chris, love having you on the program. Talk a little bit about your company real quick and give that website for people to get more information.
Yep. So my name is Chris Rodgers. I'm the founder and CEO of CSP. The website address is csp.agency. We're a specialized SEO agency serving regional, national, and enterprise organizations. Small team of highly experienced SEOs. So across our relatively small staff, we've got over 100 years of SEO experience. We've generated over $100 million in revenue from organic traffic for our clients, and we're now in our 12th year of business.
Yeah, it's amazing. Talk a little bit about our topic today. Set the stage.
Yeah, so at the beginning of March, we had a core algorithm update that Google started rolling out. This is on the heels of a fairly unprecedented amount of major Google updates at the end of Q3, starting in September, going in through Q4, that had a pretty big impact in the SEO space and just in general, people that have websites that are getting organic traffic. This website update starting here in March was supposed to take about 30 days from the announcements that we've had, and we're now 2 weeks past that. This update really was aimed at trying to decrease visibility for scaled content, and with a big focus on low-quality AI-generated content. We've got an update called the Helpful Content Update. The last version of it went live in September, and now that component has been rolled into Google's algorithm, and that is part of this March update. So as a whole, it's having a really big impact on content creators, right? Things like recipe sites, review sites, certainly, some news sites, different sites that have that really are generating their revenue from content. But then we also see that same impact rolling out on all types of websites. So we've seen, there's big impacts across the board with, people that have done SEO over the years. And so we're at a point now where, similar to other times in the SEO industry, we're having to shift and adjust to the changes that Google is making, and other changes that are, just taking place out there in the market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you've been watching these forever, right? I mean, I think your among your very earliest segments you did with me, we talked a lot about what was going on in this front. Is it unusual for it to extend this much further out, and how would you explain it?
I wouldn't say it is, like crazy for this to happen, but I do think it's unusual just, historically. Usually these things wrap up. I think what we're seeing is that, Google as a whole, even in last year and coming into last year, was catching some negative press regarding search results. And I think they were under pressure to try to address that issue. We had, people talking about the trends of adding Reddit to your Google searches to pull up Reddit instead of going into search results. A lot of people complained about over-optimized content. So Google had to make some significant changes. We obviously had, ChatGPT that got rolled out. Then Google rolled out Bard, which turned into Gemini. So they've got their AI chatbot, and Bing has their Copilot. With the introduction of those generative AI chatbots, there was a massive wave of AI-generated content, and unfortunately a massive wave of low quality. So there were people that took that and ran with it, and it was very effective. And Google got kind of forced into a corner, I believe, where they had to come in and make some pretty big changes and make a statement. And that's what they've done. Unfortunately, when they come in and make large changes that are designed to impact, the web across the board, it's kind of like a really big net, right? And if they're trying to catch the sharks in the net, unfortunately, they're going to catch a lot of dolphins in that process too. And so as they've gone through and implemented this update, there's no shortage of cases of not just good sites that are getting caught up, but just generally, bad results that are still appearing in search, specifically things in search generative experience. So what I believe is ultimately happening here is they see this data now that they've rolled it out, and they're trying to make changes, I believe, on the fly before they stop, and they're trying to get it right. And so it's taking them longer to go in and make those changes. Yeah,
I guess it's tough for, in a way, it's supposed to have, it's certainly advantageous, but it's also tough from an ethics perspective and a perception perspective to be both a referee and a player, which is what Google is.
Yeah, 100%, right? And, what we'll see is what I expect is that ultimately when this shakes down, you've got more ads and you've got, more YouTube and more results that feed people into Google's paid ecosystem, into their ads. I don't think that they have complete control over everything here, but big picture, that's where Google makes the lion's share of their revenue. So I think that serves them, and you're correct, right? They're trying to be the referee, but they're also a player in there, and there's obviously a conflict.
In the Trump card, if you will, no correlation to Donald Trump. I used to use that expression quite often nowadays. It's like, hey, wait a minute, what did he mean by that? But the thing that trumps all things for any of these large tech companies is the fact that they're publicly owned, right? The pressure on continuously making profit in a way that private companies don't have that pressure really has the potential of distorting the thinking of decision makers. And I don't think Google's exempt from that pressure.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think they've changed a lot over time from where they started, the do no evil that they started out with. And, it is in their best interest to improve search results. So I do think that they are genuinely trying to improve search results so that people continue to use Google and use it in the right way. But at the same time, there's also I think that pressure, and there's a pull to generate more with ad revenue. And if they're getting bad PR and people are looking other places for answers, then it puts a lot of pressure on them to make changes. So they're in a little bit of a rock and a hard place. They've also got search generative experience that they're rolling out, and they've got, I think, some challenges monetizing that. And then they've also got challenges in how they're going to reward content publishers. Right. So, I've talked to different news outlets, and there's concerns that, with search generative experience that the AI is essentially disseminating news and information that comes from their sources and stories that they've worked on. And then there are no links in there. Right. There's no traffic being sent to those sites. So they're cutting off the revenue. Google's aware of that, but they're going to have to, figure out how they navigate an environment where they need content, and they're going to have to find a way to continue to reward people for content. And if they strangle all the traffic out of that scenario, people aren't going to keep making content for Google. They're going to take that content and put it in other places.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they're too Puritan, they're going to end up strangling themselves, basically, is what it sounds like. And so, yeah, it's a difficult balancing act. Takeaways, if you will, for the listener.
So ultimately, Google's been the leader in search for a very, very long time, right? And the fact is that when you are seeking out information and you need to figure things out, make important decisions, your first step is going to be your immediate circle of trusted confidants and colleagues and family and friends, right? Where do you go next? And for a majority of that people, it's not social media, it's not Reddit, it's not TikTok, it's going to be Google or a search engine if you don't use Google. So that I don't see that changing anytime soon. I do think that Google's ultimately going to find a way to navigate this. People are going to keep using Google. But in the meantime, there's a lot of turbulence. So this is a time when really being able to look at where Google and search engines are going can help guide your strategy to ensure that as you go along this path, you are still one of the companies, one of the businesses that is, getting the value and getting the returns from SEO that, has built this up as, the most profitable channel for digital marketing outside of email.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. And it's company, again, CSP.agency. Check that out as the website. And thanks as always.
Thanks so much.
All right, Chris Rodgers, make sure you check out his website, the great work that they do. I am Kevin Price. This is the nationally syndicated Price of Business Show.